morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Wherever you are, I'm Ariel.
I'm Shya.
Welcome to being here.
Yes.
Today's theme, internal culture war. Do you know what that means?
No.
It's that fight you have with yourself when you have a reality in present time, and it wars with
Your conditioning.
your enculturation. A good person would not take a nap on a weekday.
Oh my God.
A responsible person would. So sometimes things like today is the day for being here, but you have the idea that you should be doing something different. And then you're fighting with yourself. How's that?
That's okay. How about you're attracted to your significant other, but it's the middle of the day and there's work to be done, so you don't follow that attraction.
What can't have intimacy during the day? Yes, there's work to be done.
Forever.
Are you interested in listening? I know that we have upcoming a magical relationships weekend, which you're invited to. You're welcome to come. However, you're welcome to, I'm getting racy. You got me going, Shya. Now, here's the thing though. Listening is a key component for magical relationships, particularly the relationship with yourself. So that's where we're starting. And that is about listening to hear what another person has to say from his or her perspective.
Rather than passing it through what you agree with or disagree with, or the way you think it ought to be, to actually hear another person's point of view without interrupting it, with allowing it to come into you.
We had a meeting with a whole group of people from our community. It was a Zoom meeting, and we've talked about listening and hearing from another person's point of view for many years. People have heard it many times, and I was so touched that somebody spoke up who must have heard us say that 10 times, 50 times, 100 times. And they said, "What do you mean? I don't understand hearing from another person's point of view." And we used the example of our friend Andy, who adores cold showers. So when he says, "I love cold showers," you can either hear Andy loves cold showers, or you automatically pass it through your system of what?
What's wrong with this guy that he would even like a cold shower? I like warm showers.
I remember the time I had one and the water went cold, like the mind skips off to rebuttals, alternatives, what you like, applying it to yourself.
And that's not listening. Listening is hearing what another person has to say without judging what they say, but letting yourself be there in their reality.
Oh, that's a great place to start.
Yep.
Shall we take our first guest?
Please.
All right. Stephanie, welcome to being here. Tell people where you're zooming in from.
Hi, this is Stephanie, and I'm from Hamburg in Germany.
It's so nice to see you, hear your voice. I know our listeners are actually listening, so nice to hear you.
When I heard the topic, my first thought was, I've handled that. I don't have internal wars. And then I realized that that's a big lie. It's so important for me that I fit in. I really want people to like me, and this is so strange that I say that, because on the other hand, I think I'm a rebel and I do my thing, but I really want to follow the rules, and that people don't say, "Oh my God, she's not doing her life right." But maybe it's just me who says that.
Well, if it were just you, Stephanie, I don't believe we would be doing this episode, because this episode then would be devoted to let's work on Stephanie's problems because she's unique and she's the only person who ever second guesses herself, who's trying to balance being a rebel with wanting to be liked, whoever worries about what people think about her. I mean, clearly you're the only person I've ever heard of who has those concerns.
Ooh. That's good to hear that that's not true, that it's normal. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Shya?
Well, I was going to say, let's start with that we're born into an ongoing culture, and we spend the beginning parts of our lives learning how to fit into that culture so we can survive.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning of it all. And then you set in motion an idea of judging yourself to make sure you fit in, and you never stop doing that. Well, let's go to, you don't fit in. You're unique. You're you. But you've been programmed like a computer to think you need to belong and fit. And so you do whatever you can to either comply or resist. And either way, you're lost, because that culture determines how you experience living. And I'm not saying you should resist the culture you grow up in, but you could include it and see what's true for you in the current moment, rather than make decisions about how to be going forward in time.
Language itself holds the culture. We're speaking to you in English. I know that your
Multilingual.
mother tongue, or should I say your father tongue, is German. But even that you would call it a mother tongue or a father tongue designates a gender in the verbalization of words. And I guarantee you, sentence structures, everything informs how you should go about your life. And then you can conform to it, you can rebel against it, or you can use awareness, a non-judgmental seeing. So if I saw you and your husband, Thomas, it would be like Frau Stephanie, or it's Mr. and Mrs. Kane is how it is verbalized here. The man comes first. So I could rebel and say Mrs. and Mr. Kane, or I could say either way, but there's a setup in there just in how we've been trained to speak. It doesn't, nothing makes you wrong, Stephanie. Nothing is serious. You tend to get really serious.
Yes. Ah, this is so funny. This Mr. and Mrs. We have the same. Actually, it's also here, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
If you say Mrs. and Mr., people do that sometimes, but it's really like you go over. I strike my cat in the wrong direction. There's a little bit of a, hey, this is funny.
Stroke your cat, not strike it. Strike is when you hit them. Stroke.
Oh no. So stroking. Yeah, that's a language thing, you see. Yeah.
Now, when we tuned in and we met with the producer and we met with you before we started recording this, you said, I'm really emotional today. Now, I don't know that you still are, but in that moment, you were having an internal culture war.
As if you should have been different than you were. As if having an emotion show up without your understanding why is something that has to be wrong, rather than human beings are just emotional.
Oh, now that you say that, I can remember all my chain of thoughts I had. oh, I feel emotional. Why do you feel emotional? There's no reason. And then I felt more emotional. Then I thought, don't cry. You are strong. You are cool. That's all the.
I like that the voice that you listen to tells you what you are. You know, earlier today, Ariel asked me to write something about how I saw myself. In that I saw a picture that was taken of me 63 years ago. Ooh, long time ago. I wasn't a baby. I was riding a wave at the Bonsai Pipeline in Hawaii. And my original thoughts about myself was that I am small and I'm not as strong as some people. I'm not that athletic, you know. And I saw this picture of myself, and I was very strong and very athletic in the picture. And so the picture disagreed with my internal conversation about who I was and what I was capable of. And I suggest that you have an internal conversation that talks to you, that was put together by you as a child and has repeated itself ever since, saying about the same things over and over.
This is a lot of pictures jump on me now. Like I can see me really little, and I was strong and independent, and it doesn't matter that I was tiny. I was at least as strong as my three brothers and proved it. And it's like the same like today.
I love that, Stephanie. I do. No, I can. Yeah.
Very good. So, you know, who's determining your life? You or a 3-year-old?
And let's talk about those 3 principles of instantaneous transformation, because you recognized you were feeling emotional, and then you said no, and suddenly you were more emotional.
So what you resist, first principle, what you resist persists, grows stronger, and dominates your life. So anything you say no to, you get stuck with.
Now, second principle, there's 2 parts to it, or 2 ways to approach it. No 2 things can occupy the same Stephanie at the same time. And another approach is life shows up exactly as it does in any given moment. So you had a recognition of emotion, and then the automatic no got triggered. And then it intensifies. Third principle, anything you see, become aware of without judging, completes itself in an instant. So if we go back to that moment, you had to automatically go, oh no, I can't be emotional. No, because you did. It had to intensify because it did. Third principle, we're talking about it now. You're seeing it. You aren't judging it. It's funny. Well, look at that. I did that with my brothers when I was 3. You see the pictures. How emotional are you in this moment?
Not at all. I just feel good.
I mean, not that emotion would be a bad thing if you were.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see you being you rather than operating out of the script a 3-year-old put together.
Thank you.
You know, change is about getting rid of that script. Transformation.
Well, change, let's go to change first, because you talked about change. Change is where you look at what you think a better you would be, what you have to fix or correct about yourself so you're better.
You identified the problem with Stephanie in this little tiny vignette, this little example. The problem with Stephanie was her emotionality. The solution is correct it or be strong, fix it, talk yourself through it.
Well, you know, The thing is this, Stephanie, you can't help but be the way you are in the current moment of your life. And if you can't help but be the way you are in the current moment of your life, then you can't be any different than you were in past moments of your life. So try being kind to yourself, noticing the way you are rather than judging it as bad or wrong or you should be different. You should be exactly as you are because that's the way you are. If you do that, then there's a possibility of something new showing up, you see. Not to try to get something new to show up, but if you see it, it completes itself and something new shows up immediately, automatically. What if you're perfect exactly as you are? Man, then all that beating on yourself to be different. When I was a kid, there was another kid who was a couple of years older than me. His name was Steve Feldman. And I was probably 10, he was probably 12. And what I noticed was he walked on the balls of his feet, on his toes. He was a toe walker. He'd bounce up and down as he walked. And I thought, oh, that is so cool. I should learn how to walk that way. I never did. I mean, I tried, I imitated him, but it wasn't my thing. But I was amazed in retrospect and looking back that my ideal as a child was something that was so off that the idea of walking on your toes was cool. Well, we model ourselves after older kids who do things that they think is cool.
Like your brothers.
Well, I was thinking about YouTube, how I see these kids jumping off bridges and high places because they think it's cool. They don't show you how many of them damage themselves for life.
So, talked about change, problem, solution. You see these aspects of you and you create a strategy to fix the problem. Transformation is based in the moment, it's instantaneous. And it includes, Stephanie, all the change aspects of you. So in a transformational framework, as you're noticing you notice the thoughts that you're the only one who ever second guessed yourself. It notices the voice that's trying to give you a pep talk and tell you to be strong or to suppress the emotional side as if it's wrong. It includes all those things. So where transformation is change is totally exclusive of transformation. In a change modality, problem, solution, transformation does not exist. It's not a possibility. It's based in the past, analyzing the past and having a better future. And transformation is like,
all there is the current moment.
look at me now.
Sounds great. Love it.
Move it.
Yeah, and you didn't have to do anything to feel great and love it. It just shows up when you get here.
Yeah.
When you're in your past, everything is messy. Or in the future, everything is messy. Because life is about possibilities rather, and possibilities, the only possibilities you can think of, which are mostly negative. And the moment is about what is, and it's not about getting somewhere better. It's about being where you are.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for being with us today and for revealing in the moment
what you thought was a problem.
Yeah, and how you saw and how you were experiencing life. And it's like, voila, here you are.
Voila.
Et voila. Alrighty then. Drum roll, please. You sound like our cat. It's time for our listener feedback spotlight while Shya is here purring with me. We get to hear from one of our listeners
about how transformation has impacted their lives. And if you'd like to learn more or register for any of our upcoming courses, visit transformationmadeeasy.com.
Yeah.
And when I say easy, it's like the fire swamp.
Yeah, join us.
If you know your way through it, it's easy. If you have a good guide, it's easy. If you don't, well, there's rodents of unusual size. There's lightning sand.
all
the
those
thing?
I don't remember.
Oh, and the fire spurts.
There
Right.
you go.
There you go.
We're great
Transformation made easy.com.
This is Dorothy in Manhattan, and I'm just so grateful for the wealth, the richness of life that has come to me and been enhanced by your workshops and seminars for many years. I just know my life is so much richer because of knowing you and participating, going to Costa Rica, doing seminars and podcasts. So I just want to give a very deep, heartfelt thank you for what you guys do.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shya's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We have Living Made Easy seminars coming up. They're the 2-hour seminars on Saturdays, Mondays, the occasional Tuesday evening from the European time zone. Just go to transformationmadeeasy.com. Check up on Living Made Easy seminars. You are welcome. The next weekend seminar is on the theme of magical relationships.
And that's a virtual seminar. So we'll be doing it with Zoom on June 8th and 9th.
Yes. The next in-person seminar is Creativity and Intuition, happening in New Jersey. It's a Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Costa Rica is filling. You're invited. We will be going there for 2 weeks of seminars in January of 2025. You can come to either or both. And a prerequisite is a weekend seminar with us sometime in this year, either virtually or in person. Again, transformationmadeeasy.com. All right, let's take our next guest.
Did we say we finished each other's sentences?
We didn't, but we do. So
there you are.
Welcome, Dave. I thought you were going to finish it.
I only do when I do.
That's right. It's not on demand. It's just when it's natural. Hey, Dave.
Hey, guys. I'm Dave, and I'm in Winnipeg, Canada.
Yeah.
Has spring gotten to Winnipeg yet?
Not yet.
Well, see, now we are pre-recording this. It'll be out in May. So probably by the time it arrives on the 22nd of May, spring should be there by then. Just saying, there is hope.
Where do you see that on here? I see. Okay, thank you.
That weekend is the weekend that the farmers normally consider the risk of frost to be well enough past that they can plant their crops.
Oh, that is so cool. That
What
really
day is
is
that?
spring, May 22nd.
Really?
Yeah, it's always around that time. Yeah.
When you were a farmer in the eastern part of like in Virginia,
Yeah.
what was planting day then?
Oh.
More like
I think it was around
St. Patrick's Day?
exactly. That's what I was looking for. St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it comes earlier the closer you get to the equator. So
Yeah.
what can we do for you, sir?
Well, it's as I was reading this topic about the internal culture wars, I noticed something in myself that is fairly repetitive as I look back over time, and it's that when there's something that I think I've done wrong or something that I feel uncomfortable about looking at or afraid of looking at, I notice myself kind of internally freeze up, like almost if I stay still enough, I won't be seen.
But that's what rabbits do. If they're walking through the woods and there's a rabbit there, they freeze and they think that will save them, the flight or fright,
Yeah.
flight or fight. Well,
deers will do that too.
For a moment.
They'll stop chewing and they'll look at you like.
But then they usually take off.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with rabbits.
It's the fright actually. Before the flight.
Yeah. Right. Well, the idea of looking at something, usually we're afraid we're going to find something bad out about ourselves.
Yes.
It's not that we're going to find out something good, but what we usually find is that we are much more able to deal with what life offers us than we think we can or think we are.
That is true for me.
Yeah. So, you have the idea that, oh God, what does this mean about me? But what if it doesn't mean anything about you, except that you are able and capable of dealing with life as it shows up if you're here for it?
Yeah.
But if you're often worrying about the future, your coordination to the moment isn't there. Your ability to respond to what is wanted and needed in the moment isn't there if you're distracted by some other thing. That's where most automobile accidents happen. We were driving down the road near our home last week or two, maybe, and we saw this SUV in a driveway, but it looked wrong. And as we went further down the road, there was a mailbox in the middle of the road that this guy had hit.
The mailbox was flattened. The big wooden post and reinforcement
that it was standing
broken.
And so we stopped our car and I got the mailbox out of the road. And on the way back, we saw the path that this car had taken. See, the road
gently turned
to the left and the car went straight. And his wheels got stuck in the mud.
And then he tried to correct and he overcorrected and he ran over this person's mailbox.
Now, clearly he was thinking about something or somehow distracted because it was very obvious that the road turned to the left. But by his tracks, he went straight ahead. So he was thinking about something. You can't handle the future before you get there. See, and the future always shows up in current time as a moment of now. So if you just deal with now, you're fine. Worrying about a future that hasn't gotten here doesn't save you.
You recently were telling us about an event that you went to. It was a gala. You sponsored a table. You're a business owner. You invited a number of people. And from what I recall you speaking to us about, you hit that moment of freeze at that table. Like, who am I to be out here? Who am I to be the leader that I am? What gives me the right? And somewhere in there, you found the catalytic agent within you to bypass that conversation and step into your greatness.
See, nothing gives you the right except you. You give you the right. You say, I can say something here. I'm allowed to speak because I say I'm allowed to speak, not because there's a rule that says you're not allowed to speak because you're too young or you don't have enough information or knowledge.
Or my company's not big enough. But yeah, I see, as you say that, I see how I've looked outside of myself for permission to be myself.
Yes.
Well, in that instance, at least from what I'm recalling, you didn't look outside yourself, you looked within. How did you manage it? How did you bypass that?
I just, I don't know exactly. I just looked at it and saw that I had a choice to own this, to own
Did,
who I am.
did you notice that you belonged in your moment?
Yeah. When I looked at the people around me and the way that we were interacting, and it wasn't as if I don't know exactly how to say it, but there was no barrier between me and them that I normally put up. And I just stepped into it, I guess.
I love that you say, I don't really know or exactly know. That is one of those hallmarks of transformation.
Well, that to me tells me you were there in your moment, looking and seeing what was wanted and needed and just providing it rather than thinking about it.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
yeah, when you say you stepped into it, okay. But you could not tell me how to step into it. It's like trying to tell you how to walk so that you could learn how to walk by my description.
You know what's really cool about this?
Mhm.
As I was trying to describe it to you, I could see my mind trying to figure out a framework, that I could use to repeat this in the future. And I I think, well, that's definitely in my culture or in how I've lived maybe up till now, I don't know. But I always want to establish, okay, in order to overcome this situation, these are the steps I need to take, you know.
Well, you're setting up rules, in other words.
Exactly. Yeah. And
But
that
what
didn't require a rule.
exactly? It required your being there to see what was needed and then providing it rather than thinking about it.
That's really cool. Do you know how many years I spent working on those things?
Well, look, I'm quite a bit older than you, and I bet you I've spent more years than you did working on it, trying to figure it out. And then one day you realize, wait a second,
I'm
this is
already
it.
here.
I'm already here, right? I don't have to try to get here. I don't have to ask people's permission to be me.
See, I can hear what you just said is like, oh God, that took a long time. Or I can be like, wow, Dave's had a dedication to have himself be accident prone to falling into the moment and falling into his greatness. There's been a dedication to that.
Yeah, you've made an investment in discovering you rather than listening to your internal conversation that tells you why you can't.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yes.
very impressed with something recently, additionally. The person who first introduced you to us years ago, her name is Tracy, and you were telling her how much you appreciated that she didn't just ask you once, that you had a level of cynicism, a level of skepticism, a do I deserve this?
Well, not only that, you were brought up in an organized religion that preached proselytization, where you proselytize people or enroll them into that religion. And so you had a natural resistance to that. So anybody telling you anything that sounded like an organizational approach to anything, you had natural resistance to. So you had to overcome that resistance to being told something new and actually hear it. So congratulations. See,
But go ahead.
well, transformation is one of these things that's really up to you, Dave. It's not about being talked into anything. It's what you said earlier about when you confront something that you confront is to be with, something that you're unaware of or not used to, and it's frightening to look at, but you're willing to look and see what's there.
Like face head on, confront, like conversation, like you're talking, but it's like.
Yeah. Well, confront for me carries a negative connotation.
Of course it does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But one of the things I loved about it is that you saw your natural born, or your not natural, your culture born resistance to her approaching you with this possibility, and that you were willing to step beyond that, but also that you relaxed enough that she was able to come back to you more than once. And then years down the road, you gave it back to her. You told her how grateful you were for her not giving up on you. And then I've been seeing recently at Living Made Easy's, people who you've met or
Work for you?
people who work for you, that you've been sharing the possibility with them, and they've been coming and have been delighted with what's possible for them. I just really admire the whole arc of it, and also that you're willing to give back, tell people what's possible, including the person who invited you in the first place.
Thank you for saying that. For me, I've often been with friends or whatever, where people will talk about the things that have been helpful to them. And I notice they do it with, they do it without apologizing for it. And I would talk about the things that are working for me with like almost a holding back, like, will they judge me? Will they, and will I judge myself? And I know I was doing that while I was saying it. And as I just saw like where that, I don't know, I just saw it, and I was able to let it go and just express myself. And that makes such a difference to the way people even are able to receive it.
Well, I'm going to do a shameless promotion for the upcoming Magical Relationships Weekend. What you're describing is you judged yourself. So therefore, you held back for fear they might see you the way you saw you. Mm-hmm. And it loops back around to what I was talking about earlier in this podcast about it starting with being kind to yourself. And as you've expanded your capacity for kindness to yourself, your ability to relate has transformed.
That's very cool.
I really, really invite people to that virtual weekend. I know there are people even in places like Australia and Hong Kong who come it's not at a normal time of night. They pretend they're on a night flight because we're doing it at the day here.
And so they're at 2:00 in the morning, waking up to come to a seminar that we're doing midday,
So any excuse you give yourself to come is worth it should you wish to partake. You are invited.
Sweet.
Thanks for being with us today, Dave. Really, really a treat.
Yep.
Same. Thank you, guys.
So if you want to subscribe to this podcast, you can do that. Share it with your friends. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the newsletter. We have lots of cool things upcoming. You can find all our courses and the newsletter sign up at transformationmadeeasy.com. Next week's podcast episode is, but they were wrong. We'll be back next week. So come on back.
And don't miss
being here.